This is your Wednesday Daily Delivery. I am Michael Rand. We got a lot to get to today. Not all of it good news. We're going to get to Major League Baseball. Looked like there was progress on Monday on the labor front. That all went up in smoke on Tuesday. No deal. First two series of the regular season have now been canceled. Acrimony between the sides growing, and I will lay out why I think Rob Manfred, commissioner of baseball, not only is wrong in this case, but is the worst commissioner of any sport in my 45 years of living on this earth. We'll also hear from Randy Johnson, covers a lot of different things for the Star Tribune. He'll join me to talk about Gophers football, Gophers men's hockey, Gophers women's hockey, a lot of good stuff from Randy coming up. Got to check in with Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. He spoke at the NFL Combine on Tuesday. Andrew Kramer was there for the Star Tribune. Read his coverage, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com. Just a little bit of interesting stuff that Kwesi said about a couple different Vikings players, the two biggest pieces of the puzzle, as he might like to call them, Kirk Cousins and Danielle Hunter. I'll play you the clip of Kwesi talking about Kirk Cousins, what he thinks Kirk does well, but also some good context with that. Got to get to the Wolves' big win over Golden State. You know, Golden State missing a lot of players in last night's game, including Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. But, they still had Steph Curry. They still had, quote-unquote, all-star Andrew Wiggins in that game, who did not have a good game. And Wolves, a pretty comfortable win. Karl Anthony Towns playing about as well as I've seen him play, so we'll get to more of that. And the Wild tailspin continues. 5-1 loss to Calgary. Cam Talbot in the net for this one. Neither of their goalies playing particularly well right now in this rotation. When both of them are playing well, there's no problem. When at least one of them is going well, you can ride that one. When both of them are going bad, you've got problems. And it's not just the goalies. It is problems across the board. But first, what did I miss? Circling back on baseball, circling the drain as it seems to be doing. Canceling the first two series of the regular season because they can't come to an agreement by their deadline of 5 o'clock Eastern Time Tuesday. Rob Manfred, like I said, the commissioner of baseball, is the one that I hold 95% responsible for this. And I know he serves at the pleasure of the owners, who have one goal in mind as a unified group, which is to make money. Rob Manfred was a skilled negotiator, I guess is how you'd like to put it, in previous collective bargaining agreements when he was not the commissioner of baseball. That's probably why he got this job, because he was able to squeeze a lot of money out of players, and the players at this point have said, no thanks, no more to that. We need to reshape, rethink how this game is being paid, how this game is being played, and Rob Manfred doesn't seem to have much interest in that. All he wants to do is run it into the ground, run it like a hedge fund, and just strip it of all its assets. So not a great look. I don't know if Rob Manfred even likes baseball, but it's not just this, right? Rob Manfred has presided over the Astros cheating scandal. He has presided over just this growing era of acrimony in baseball. He's presided over games getting longer, not doing enough about that. He's presided over just the slippage that baseball has experienced in the last 7 years since he took over as commissioner. But the biggest one, the front and center one, is related to these negotiations. It's just how he has, managed to alienate basically an entire group of players. You have to work hard to do that. You have to work hard to make every single player, it seems, in all of baseball despise you. And, commissioners aren't always well liked. They have to make hard decisions that some people aren't going to agree with. That comes with the job. And there have been commissioners that have had to make tough decisions in the past. There are commissioners that have been unpopular in the past. His predecessor, Bud Selig, had a lot of stuff on his plate during his entire tenure, presided over the steroid era that blew up in his face, presided over potential contraction of the Minnesota Twins way back in the early 2000s. So there's certainly competition for Rob Manfred. Gary Bettman presided over the NHL when they lost an entire season to a labor stoppage and had to completely reconfigure that. Roger Goodell presided over, this era of concussions, and knowing knowing that what the head trauma is doing in the NFL to these players. Somehow, some way, in just 7 years, Rob Manfred has managed to eclipse all of those people to earn the title of worst commissioner of my lifetime. And if you don't believe me, let's just hear a little clip from Rob Manfred talking about, why negotiations have broken down where they are at this point in time.
I believe, without exception, every topic we have made the last proposal. Every single issue in the basic agreement, we have made the last proposal. You draw your own conclusion as to who ought to go next. We need to regroup and figure out how we're going to move the process forward. That's the best I can do for you.
Previously, Manfred had said missing games would be a disastrous outcome for baseball. It is a disaster of his own making. Make no mistake about it. Even if they say this is their final offer to players, the offer is not good enough. Major League Baseball and its owners need to get more realistic. Players probably will budge a little bit more on some of these core issues, but if they don't want to fundamentally change the way this game is paid and the way this game is played, there is going to be a problem, and that biggest problem is being led by Rob Manfred, Commissioner of Baseball.
Take a playcation to Mystic Lake for 24/7 gaming, fun restaurants and bars, and luxurious hotel rooms. And join Club M to bask in the rewards. Follow the lights to Mystic Lake, where every day is play day.
Happy to be joined again on Daily Delivery by Randy Johnson. Covers a lot of different things for the Star Tribune, and that's a good part of the reason I wanted to have Randy on today. He's been writing about Gophers men's hockey, Gophers women's hockey, Gopher football, and I want to talk about all three of those things because they're all pretty interesting right now, Randy, as we think about the seasons ahead, the postseason, especially for the men's and women's hockey teams right now, and then the things that are kind of cooking for all those teams. It's a lot right now, is it not?
Yeah, it is. It's a fun time of year. When it's always called March Madness, but basically, when you look at the high schools and stuff, it starts in mid-February and goes through mid-April. So,
absolutely. Let's start with Gopher men's hockey. Patrick Royce and I talked about them a little bit the other day, but just just the interest in that team, the 8-game winning streak, and kind of how they've done it. You've seen some of it, from Justin Close jumping in and being really good ever since LaFontaine left for Carolina to them kind of doing just fine without some of their best players who were over at the Olympics. I mean, how do you describe the level of kind of, I don't know if it's perseverance, whether it's being able to cover for one another, but it's been pretty impressive to watch.
Yeah, it's it's kind of a combination of everything there. A lot of their depth is showing up. That's helped a lot. They they go 5-0 without those 3 Olympians, and that's pretty impressive. And obviously getting the goaltending from Justin Close has been amazing. Basically, he's got a 1.73 goals against average, 9.33 save percentage. They're great numbers, and they're among the nation's leaders in the top 5. He's been exactly what they needed when Jack LaFontaine left early, and he's just kind of taken that net and run with it.
So where do they sit kind of right now? I know we're heading into Big Ten playoffs. I know they've got a bye. How are they situated in terms of the big picture in the NCAA tournament?
They're situated pretty well. Right now they are 4th in the pairwise ratings, which would put them as one of the 4 number 1 regional seeds. Minnesota State Mankato's number 1, Michigan's number 2, Denver's number 3, and then North Dakota's right behind them at number 5. So basically, if they would win the Big Ten tournament, they would stay as one of those number 1 seeds. They could maybe afford a loss in the title game and still stay a number 1 seed. The lowest they would go would be a number 2.
That would seem to indicate that there's a chance that they could be in the same region as North Dakota this year. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's what right now with the current pairwise, I projected them in the same regional as North Dakota right now. If it fits with the bracketing 4 and 5, so it just kind of depends on if certain regionals have interconference first round matchups that they would try to break those up. Denver, for example, they must be placed in Loveland. Right now, they're a number 1 seed. If they stay in number 1, then say a North Dakota couldn't be in their first round matchup, or another team that maybe further down from the NCHC like a St. Cloud State or a Minnesota Duluth. They wouldn't match those up. So right now the Gophers are, they're sitting pretty good. This winning streak has helped immensely. They were, after they had split with Alaska Anchorage, they were 12th in the pairwise, and you get around 12, 13, 14, then you're kind of on the bubble. So you don't want to get further down there, that's for sure.
One of their best players, obviously, has been Ben Myers this year. He was over in the Olympics, helped the U.S. team on a nice run before that ended over there. One interesting thing about him is he is a college free agent.
Yeah, he's meant a lot to the Gophers. You just look at what he did when he came back from Beijing. They arrived late that Friday night at Penn State. Next day he plays, gets 3 assists. They come back last weekend. He scores the hat trick against Wisconsin in the Friday game, and then gets the scoring started Saturday and added an assist. So he's just been on a tear.
He's going to be pretty coveted, though, I'd imagine. Those college free agents, sometimes when, being drafted is nice, but if you go undrafted and then all of a sudden put together the kind of college career he's had, and when you get the size and skill he's had, he's going to draw a lot of interest, I would imagine.
Yeah, in that situation, you can pretty much choose where you want to go, what type of, look at the depth of what each team has and decide where your best path is to get to the NHL.
Now, I know you were over at Gophers women's hockey media access on Tuesday afternoon. I know they've got Minnesota Duluth in the conference semifinals coming up this weekend, but they're another team that's number one in the polls, number one in the ranking right now, and looking like they're having headed towards another really successful postseason run. But what's kind of the vibe over there right now? Is it kind of a keep this going kind of mentality at this point?
Yeah, I think so. It's basically, they have just gotten off a stretch where they finished the regular season against St. Thomas and played St. Thomas in the first round of the WCHA playoffs. So the competition is going to ramp up quite a bit. No offense to the Tommies, first-year program that's going to make some strides here going forward. Basically, with the Minnesota Duluth, which has a win over the Gophers this year, that's so that's got their attention. This WCHA tournament, it's this frozen or final face-off at Ritter on Saturday and Sunday. It's kind of a mini Frozen Four, actually, with the teams they have. Gophers ranked number 1, Ohio State 2, Wisconsin 4, and Minnesota Duluth is 8 in the pairwise. So it's looking pretty tough, and we could be seeing previews of some NCAA matchups too.
Pardon my ignorance on this one, but has Ohio State had a good program in women's hockey in recent years, or is this a new thing for them?
No, they've had a very good program in recent years.
Okay.
They were in the Frozen Four last year, lost in the semifinals to Wisconsin, which won its second consecutive national title. Their coach, Nadine Muzzero, a former Gopher, is great.
Remember her.
She's done an outstanding job there. She's got to be one of the better coaches in the country.
Well, this should be an interesting tournament this weekend. That's at Ritter, correct?
Yeah, it's at Ritter, and pretty good parking. I'm just looking at the prices and tickets. You can get an all-session pass for $25, $30 for chair back. I mean, that's a good weekend of hockey if you like to watch the women's sport.
Yeah, absolutely. That does sound like a good option for the weekend. Last thing for you, Randy, we'll spend a little time on this. Gophers football, we've got draft talk coming up. We're at the scouting combine right now. I just saw in Tuesday's latest Mel Kiper ESPN mock draft, he's got Boye Mafe, the Gophers defensive end, as a projected late first-round pick, and a lot of that probably coming from what Boye Mafe has done in the Senior Bowl, and probably projecting what might happen with some of these measurables. What's your thought on kind of Gophers at the combine, and as we think about Boye Mafe in particular?
Yeah, Boye Mafe helped himself out immensely during the Senior Bowl, not just in the game where he had 2 sacks, a forced fumble, and another tackle for loss. He won MVP honors for his team, but he was very impressive throughout the week. From a lot of different people that there were raving about him. So he goes to the combine where he should be at a pretty good advantage there because he's such a freakish athlete that those numbers should show up pretty well in those tests.
Who else should we have our eye on from a Gopher standpoint when we're talking about the combine this week?
Well, they got 4 guys total there. They have offensive tackle Daniel Faalele. With his size at 6'9", nearly 400, that's he's got people's attention, and I've seen him projected late first round, early second. So he's still kind of raw. He's somewhat new to the sport still. So the combine will be pretty important for him. Also there is defensive end for the Gophers, defensive end Sezia Tamawo. Stuff I've read about him, possibly like a 4th round pick. The combine will be pretty important for him. He did not play in the Senior Bowl. He was there for the week, but he had a lingering injury from the season that prevented him from playing the Senior Bowl. And the 4th one is offensive lineman Blaze Andrews. He's a versatile player who's played basically every position but center on the line, and very smart guy. He's going to be an actuary, or at least that's what his major was. But I'm sure he's looking at an NFL career. He's probably a late day 2, maybe day 3 pick, kind of depending on and he can help himself out at the combine also. Basically, the offensive linemen will do their on-field stuff on Friday, and the defensive linemen on Saturday, and that's on NFL Network each day. So I guess if you jump around on that, you might be able to see some Gophers.
Well, that's pretty cool. And so, and I saw Mafe listed as a outside linebacker, at least in the Kuiper projection, and in terms of where he'd go. I think it was to Kansas City, and maybe that's got more to do with scheme than anything. Do you think he fits into like an NFL 3-4 scheme as a linebacker?
Well, I think he could. I mean, that's a situation. He's been an edge rusher and more in a 4-3, I would say. But he's got the athleticism to. I think he should be able to convert a little bit to a different scheme. I think if the Chiefs are that high on him, that's 30. That's a pretty good spot for him. Yeah,
that's a good point. It just kind of reminds me too, like there was a time where, having one Gopher player drafted was kind of a big deal. They had, years where there were droughts. They had a long first-round pick drought. I mean, have 4 guys at the combine. It's not necessarily unusual these days, but it does kind of show where this program has gotten to, both under, Jerry Kill and now under P.J. Fleck.
Yeah, it's they had 2 years ago in 2020, they had 5 guys drafted. So that was a nice situation coming off that 11-2 2019 season. The big thing this time, it looks like for sure they'll be getting their first offensive lineman drafted since 2006 when both Greg Essinger and Mark Setterstrom went. They went in 6th and 7th round respectively there. So it'll be nice they can point to their offensive lineman finally getting one in there.
Very true. Well, Randy Johnson, good stuff. Good catching up on all of those things. Read Randy's multiple platform coverage, even covered the Wild game Tuesday night as well. Did some coverage from that. So we're getting that utility knife out and using it in a lot of different ways, aren't we?
Hey, whatever keeps the paycheck going, I'm very happy with.
Sounds good, Randy. Well, we'll catch up with you again soon. Okay.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Mike. See ya.
Good stuff from Randy Johnson. As usual, follow his work, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com for all your Gopher hockey needs, for all your Gopher football needs. Randy Johnson is your guy. Let's move on, though, to, still sticking with the subject of the combine a little bit. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, Vikings' new general manager, spoke at the combine on Tuesday. Like I said, Andrew Kramer, Vikings writer for the Star Tribune, was there. Interesting stuff. Anytime Kwesi is going to talk in the next few weeks, I'm sure the subject is going to steer naturally to Kirk Cousins, is going to steer naturally to a lot of these roster decisions that the Vikings have to make this year. And I found Kwesi's answer about Cousins interesting. He talked a lot about him. Talked first of all about he was asked what he likes about Kirk Cousins, and I thought this was an interesting answer. So let's play that clip first.
He's an incredibly consistent passer. I don't think people realize that essentially every play has kind of a result built into it, right? Based on factors that he can't control. And I think what you know about Kirk is when the odds are shifted in his favor, he gets the most out of it, right? And I think people don't appreciate that skill enough. But he's incredibly consistent, incredibly accurate thrower, tough. He's durable. He plays every game. He stands in there and takes those hits when those throws are a little bit harder to come by. He's an incredible player, really cerebral. He's one of the first phone calls I made. And one of the funny things I love about being in this job is you come in with a preconceived notion about NFL players. And then you get here and they're just so different they're all just so talented. You know, I text all my Wall Street buddies all the time, like they would all take our jobs, just so we're clear. And so Kirk is no different, just incredibly talented, smart, detailed. The level of detail of things we talked about was incredible. I won't share that with you guys, but he's an incredible person. I'm excited to work with him.
That said, there's not been this for sure commitment to Kirk Cousins. I think that's a smart way to play it because you don't want to paint yourself into a corner. But Andrew Kramer. I'm just quoting from Andrew Kramer's story. About what they've talked about so far. He said everything is at play at quarterback. Adofo-Mensah said you have options just like they have options. All these things are uncertain. How he's going to play, what's the market going to be, all those things, this puzzle. And ultimately you're just trying to answer it, not knowing today what's going to happen. So I wish I could tell you for certain anything. Everything's in play, and I hate to be that general, but everything's in play with every player. And he also said that he had dinner with Cousins' agent, and he'd spoken to Cousins about their vision for the future, said, those conversations are ongoing, and I can't tell you anything at this moment, but we will communicate, and we will do whatever is best for the Minnesota Vikings, and Kirk will do whatever's best for what's best for Kirk, but I think there's a lot of middle ground for us to work together. Basically they've said they're happy with Cousins, they like things about him, but that there's still this this idea that nothing is for sure in this case. And I don't know if that's coming from the Vikings. I don't know if that's coming from Cousins and maybe not wanting to be a part of this anymore. It seems like this is a good a reasonable fit for 2022, but just the way Kirk the way Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and the way Kevin O'Connell have talked about Kirk Cousins leads you to believe that they like the things he does, but they, like all of us, look at the money he makes, look at how he fits into this roster, and still have some long-term questions. So I don't know if we advanced the ball at all with those answers from Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. He had some interesting answers about Danielle Hunter too. Just all this whole puzzle fitting together, and this puzzle is going to have to be completed relatively soon. I mean, Neil Hunter's got that roster bonus, that $18 million roster bonus due in just a couple of weeks here. The league year starts in a couple of weeks here. So, what are they going to do with a lot of these, a lot of their own free agents? How are they going to make this salary cap work? Again, they're sorting through all of that now. They don't have to have all of those answers now. We shouldn't expect them to have all of those answers now, but the answers that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah gave about Kirk Cousins on Tuesday, even if they were kind of vague and kind of straddling the middle ground, tell you a lot even in that they are not 100% committed right now to whatever decision they want to make on him, which means, like he said, anything and everything is still in play. Let's get to the Wolves now. Really nice win over Golden State on Tuesday. Significant, because Golden State is Golden State, even though they were missing several key pieces, including Klay Thompson and Draymond Green in that game. Still, Wolves were without Anthony Edwards, so they weren't at full strength either, but they still cruised more or less. Anytime I watched that game, they were pretty much in control, getting the shots they wanted, cruised to that win over Golden State. Significant because it is the second game of a back-to-back. That's been a problem for the Wolves this season. Significant because they get through this whole, this first 4 games out of the break. I was looking at that and saying, this is important for them. 4 tough opponents, 4 likely playoff teams, 4, Memphis, Memphis, Cleveland, Philadelphia, and and Golden State. 4 teams that are going to be in the playoffs this year. Memphis and Golden State, 2 of the top 3 teams in the West right now. And the Wolves beat both of them. Both of them had their own issues, but, it's still, at the end of the day, a win is a win. They get through that stretch 3-1, and now the schedule gets pretty soft for the next 5 games. And again, The standings, they haven't made a lot of moves in the standings just because a lot of these other teams are doing, the teams above them have been playing pretty well as well. But, the Wolves can't control that. What they can control is how they play. How they've played has been awfully good lately, 34-29 now. Karl-Anthony Towns, 39 points in that game last night, by the way. D'Angelo Russell had a great quote after the game about Towns and what to do when he is rolling like that. Let's play that right now.
Yep. Feed him. If you run out of food, feed him the fork. I don't know. Keep feeding him.
So like I said, next 5 for the Wolves now. It goes like this. Friday against Oklahoma City, Saturday against Portland, Monday against Portland, Wednesday against Oklahoma City, and then next Friday against the Orlando Magic. 5 teams that are below 500, a chance for them to, move up in the standings perhaps. A lot of these teams, like I said, above them, Denver, Dallas, even the teams below them, the Clippers, making moves right now, winning games in lockstep with the Wolves. But, the Wolves are playing pretty well right now, and they've got 34 wins already. That's pretty impressive for this season. I believe in certain over-unders, they've already hit the over for their season total wins with 19 games left in the season. So impressive so far from the Wolves. We'll see if they can keep it going, but right now you have to like what you see. Conversely, let's finish with the cooler. You cannot like what you see from the Minnesota Wild right now. They get stomped again by Calgary. I don't care if the effort was better. It's a 5-1 home loss. This is a results business. You can feel better about how you played. Maybe you can feel a little bit better about your game. If you feel like you've figured a few things out, but a 5-1 loss at home, that's not, you can't find moral victories in that. I'm sorry, you just can't, especially if you are a team that thinks it is a Stanley Cup contender, a serious playoff team. That's just not how this works. So just disappointing. Cam Talbot in net for this one. They give up four goals that were of the regular variety, but it's just not happening for them right now. They got again, the effort was a little bit better in this game, but I believe that is 6 losses in their last 7 games, kind of taking a tumble in the standings right now too, which is it's a little bit precarious. The NHL, with the way they do the playoffs, the Wild is still fairly comfortable, but they're not a lock to make the playoffs anymore, especially after going 3-7 in their last 10 games. They've played 51 games. They're 31-17-3. The 5th place team in the Central Division, the Dallas Stars, is only 4 points below them, and you got Nashville in between them with 1 point fewer than the Wild, but starting to get a little bit more precarious about just simply making the playoffs, not getting a higher seed. They're 19 points behind Colorado now, which has been on fire. There was a point earlier this season when the Wild was the best team in the NHL and certainly contending for that division title. That is going by the wayside with this slump. Their goal differential is still quite good. I still have confidence they will figure this out over the final 31 games of the season. But just looking at the standings, looking that there are 5 awfully good teams in the Central, you got to start worrying a little bit about just simply making the playoffs and not anything loftier than that. And that is a strange position for them to be in given how they started this season. That will do it for today. Good stuff coming up tomorrow as well. Thank you so much for joining Daily Delivery. I'll see you again on Thursday.